Today our goal is I can translate English into mathematical expressions and I can write let statements. Okay, so remember math is almost like a language unto itself, which creates a problem when we're translating between any language, whether it's math to English or math to French or or even English to French. You have to learn how to translate correctly. So the following is a list of words that we associate with particular mathematical operations. Okay, so for instance, if we look at adding, what words do we use in English that tell us that we are supposed to add? Well, here are just a few of them. The word plus, positive, some, more. Okay, so those are four, and as I said, that's just four of them. There's many others. Now, if I'm reading something in English, how do I know that they want me to subtract something? Well, we have words such as less, take away, minus, the difference, negative. So all of those would tell me that they are expecting me to perform the operation of subtraction. Then we get to multiplying and dividing. To multiply, okay, again, there's different things, and you can see it just one to show me. There we go. Words such as times, product, double, triple, quadruple. Okay, so we could just go on. The word of also means that we would multiply. And we saw that when we worked with percentages. And then if we look at dividing, what words are there? Well, there are, when I find it. So I am back, and here it is. I knew it was hiding. So words such as quotient is the fancy word for dividing. Per, and we saw that when we talked about unit rate. The words half, third, quarter. Okay, so that also means dividing. Okay, so again, those are just some of the translations that we might use between English and mathematics. Now what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about let statements. And what we're asked to do here is create an algebraic expression for the following. And notice I have put in capital letters, do not solve. We want to simplify, but I don't want to solve. So what does that mean? So first of all, the question says the sum of three consecutive integers. So there's a few things going on here. My operation, obviously sum, and if we remember from our translation, I know that I'm supposed to be adding something, and it says three consecutive integers. So what does the word consecutive mean? What does that mean? It means one after another. So if I say my first number is 3, the next consecutive integer would be 4, and the next one would be 5. So how do I write that? Well, first of all, I have 3 numbers, so I need 3 let statements. So the first one I'm going to use is I'm going to let x represent an integer. Or you could put the first consecutive integer. Then to get the next one, well, remember I told you that if x is 1, the next one would be 2. If x was 5, the next one will be 6. So what are we doing each time? Well, actually what we're doing is we're adding 1. So I'm going to let x plus 1 represent the second consecutive integer. And finally, then let x plus 2 represent the third consecutive integer. So our task today actually has more English in it than it really does math. So my solution to this question is let x represent an integer, let x plus 1 represent the second consecutive integer, and let x plus 2 represent the third consecutive integer. Now it asks me to make an expression. So remember, an expression is a mathematical expression putting things together. So I know I'm supposed to I'm supposed to add these together. So I know I have x. I also know that I have x plus 1 is my second, and x plus 2 is my third. Now I can't solve this in the sense that I'm going to actually come up with an answer for x because they didn't tell me what the sum of the three consecutive integers was. So the next thing I have to do is I need to simplify. Now I'm adding polynomials, and we've done that already. So the first thing I do is I take off the brackets since I'm adding, and I gather like terms. So I have 1, 2, 3 x's, and I have plus a 3. Okay, so now I'm finished with that. So let's look at the next one. So I have 15 minus 1/2 of the sum of a number and 10. So 15 minus 1/2 of the sum of a number and 10. So let's go and try to do some translating. So I have 15 says minus 1/2 of the sum, which means adding, of a number, which I'll call x, and 10. So what do you think and 10 means? It might mean add 10, maybe. So let's go on, first of all, make our let statements. First of all, how many numbers am I trying to find here? 15 minus 1/2 of the sum of a number and 10. Well, it looks like the only thing I don't know is a number. So I'm going to let x represent a number. So it says 15 minus 1/2. So I'm literally going to go do that. So 15 minus 1/2 of the sum. So 1/2 of the sum of a number and 10. Notice what I did there. So I'm taking 1/2 of the sum. So it means I need to find the sum so I can take half of it. So even though English-wise doesn't have the brackets around it, in math I'm going to have to put a number. So I'm going to have the number plus 10. Okay, so that's translated. Now what I need to do is I need to literally simplify it. So we have 15. I know that I'm doing the distributive law. I must take this in. So I end up with negative 1/2 x minus 5. Again, continuing, 15 take away 5 is 10 minus 1/2 x. And so that's as far as I can go because I don't know any other information about this question. All right, the next one is our last one that we're going to look at for this video. So I have the sum of two numbers is 40. 3 times a number minus 4 times the second number. So let's take a look at this. First of all, how many numbers do I need to find? Well, it looks like I have 2 numbers that I need. Okay, I'm told the sum of those 2 numbers is 40. So I know I have number 1 and I also have a number 2. When I add them together, I get 40. Now, I can't have both x's and y's because that would be 2 variables, and I can't solve for 2 variables at one time. So if I let x be one number, then how could I rewrite y? How could I rewrite it? Well, let's take a closer look at it. So I'm going to solve my little thing over here, and actually I should actually change it to an actual color so it doesn't disappear. So normally if I was solving for y, I would subtract x from both sides. Okay, so my first number is going to be x. My other number has to be 40 minus x. So is that really true? Well, let's take a look at it. If I have x plus 40 minus x, does that equal 40? That's my question. If it does, then I've done it correctly. Well, I have a positive x and a negative x, so they cancel. I'm left with 40 equals 40, which is mathematically true. Okay, so a couple different things. When I'm asked for a sum, one number I'm going to call x. The other number I'm going to take the 40, or if the question said 60, and I would do 60 minus x, or 100 minus x, depending on what the sum is. And that works every single time if it says sum of two numbers. So I'm going to let x represent one number, and I'm going to let 40 minus x represent the other number. Now it's just a matter of using the information from the second sentence. It says 3 times a number minus 4 times the second number. So I could have in my statements, I could have put the other number. I could have put the second number if I wanted to help me if I wanted to. So let's go and do this now. So I have 3 times a number, which is our x, minus 4 times the second number. Now it doesn't tell me what that equals, but I can still simplify this mathematical expression. So the first thing, again, I'm going to distribute that 4 into that bracket. So 3x minus 160 plus 4x. And gather our like terms. So I have 7x's minus 160. Okay, so a couple different things that you have to watch out for here. One has to do with consecutive, and what I'm going to do is just going to extend this. You can put this on the back of your sheet if you want. So one of the common things has to do with consecutive. Okay, and if we look at just consecutive numbers, I would have x, the next number would be x plus 1, the next one would be x plus 2. If I had even consecutive numbers, or even odd, I would let the x represent the even. Now, what's the spacing in between the two consecutive even numbers? Well, let's start with an even number that we can think of. Okay, 2. What's the next even number? 4. What's the difference between there? 2. So let's try that again. If I have 10, and if I add 2, I'm going to get 12. Okay, so the next one, if I'm talking about even or odd, would be plus 2, plus 4, and it would continue that way. The other kind that we looked at here was this last question that we did, and it talked about the sum of two numbers. When we look at the sum of two numbers, the thing that we're looking at is it would be, because they would give us the sum, so the one number would be x, and the other number would be the sum minus x. Okay, what would happen if they gave us the difference of two numbers? Now, I didn't do an example like that, but you will have some questions like that of two numbers. Well, again, the numbers would be x, and instead of the sum plus x, here it's going to be, well, let's take a closer look at it. So if I have two numbers and I subtract them from 40, then what would that be? Well, the answer would be 40 minus x, and we'll take a look at that tomorrow in class.